Hello, my name is Dr. Carl Candlepun, and in this special episode of My Lost Podcast, I host a post-screening discussion of Season 1, Episode 10, Raised by Another. This discussion features first-time viewers, and as such, does not feature any spoilers beyond that point in the show. However, if you have not seen at least to this point in the series, I highly recommend you do so first before proceeding with this podcast. But without further ado, let's begin. All right, so we just finished watching episode 10, Raised by Another, and as if you're watching the video version of this, you may notice that we have a newcomer here with us tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And Brian, how much of Lost have you seen before?
I think most of season 1 and somewhere into season 2, but that's been 20 years ago, and I've forgotten most all of it. So
okay, so you watched it back when it was originally airing. Okay, and so like tonight's episode, was nothing coming back to you at all?
No, I had no memories of it whatsoever.
Okay, so you were surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, I think is the next person I want to talk to, because I had it. So based on our discussions in previous weeks, for example, last week when we were talking about Rousseau, like you and I kind of were like having that whole thing about like her being crazy and her being a woman and you not liking all that, and then obviously that happens with Claire in this episode. Also, you talked in another week about how her whole storyline stresses you out because of her being pregnant and all that. So yeah, I just knew that this episode was going to be a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. So what'd you think?
I was real life stressed out the entire time. Like that's when I really know that like any kind of like episode or movie or whatever is really good is when I'm like actually stressed. I actually did go into early labor with my well, technically second, but alive first, and it was brutal. So them discussing Claire and the possibility of early labor is very, very stressful. I'm very stressed out about it.
Yeah.
Because my early labor was, if I had been in the forest, I would have definitely died, for sure. Like I almost died without being in a forest with plenty of doctors. So so it's very, very stressful. So I really hope she doesn't go into early labor. I didn't think about the crazy element. I was too busy thinking about the early labor part, but
so you weren't getting mad at Jack for?
Well, she said that she had been stabbed and there wasn't a stab wound, so that's kind of fair because like it's a legitimate thing to be like, well, you didn't actually get stabbed, but you said you did. So sure. I kind of presumed that it might be a really vivid dream because, and I made this comment when we were actually watching it, but like in pregnancy, like the dreams are insane. Like you just like, I had dreams where it literally would take me a couple of days to recover from them because it felt so real that I couldn't like physically convince myself that they hadn't happened.
Wow.
So yeah, the dreams like could totally have been that horrible and that vivid that they could.
Gotcha. So you actually thought that was possibly what was going on?
Yeah, and I don't think he did a great job talking to her about it. Like I think he could have done a better job the way that he said it.
Yeah.
But like men are stupid, so.
None taken. Drew, did you think that it was really happening?
I did, if only because like it's too easy an explanation. Be like, oh, she's just having crazy pregnancy dreams. It felt like too neat an explanation.
Yeah. And
then I felt like they spent a little too much time with Ethan.
So you suspected Ethan specifically?
Yeah, especially since there was a moment too where, because his name's Ethan Rom. R-O-M,
yep.
And I was like, okay, E-T-H-E-N-R-O-M, it practically spells mother as an anagram.
Oh, yeah. So his name...
So like that was one of those things where I was like sitting there the whole time like, okay, E-T-H... Okay, M-O-T-H, there's an E and an R.
That's hilarious that you're like, okay, but the really funny thing is
When we found the perfect lost viewer, right?
Yeah. His name is an anagram for something. Mother is not part of it. It's other man.
Oh.
Other man. Get it?
Okay.
Russo's talking about the others. Oh, we're not alone. There's somebody that wasn't on the plane. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy that it occurred to you to try and figure out that his name.
Well,
But
it's just such a specific name, and they
I
lingered
guess.
on it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I do. Well, so Buck, you said you suspected him too. Sorry,
Yeah.
Brian.
Cut that out.
It's fine. So, Brian, you suspected Ethan too.
I did. He seemed peculiar, and there were just too many parts in there where he just seemed to be doing too much of nothing there.
Yeah.
I suspected him, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm thinking she's crazy.
You thought both.
She's full of hormones and fever dreams and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I want to talk more about Ethan, but now that you're saying that, I mean, there is the fact that she definitely did have a dream at the beginning of the episode. Like that, obviously, didn't happen. Any thoughts from anyone on that dream and what was happening in it?
Fun side note, I had that exact crib, but in a different color.
I think you said you had that exact dream. I was like, what?
No.
You've been sitting on that.
Okay. This is a hard episode to talk about with boys. When you're pregnant, sometimes you can have like blood that comes out that's weird. And so the way that she opened up the
Blankets.
and it was that's what that made me think of. That was intense.
Did you when she wakes up and she has blood on her hands?
I thought she was miscarrying. I was like, no, okay, so when I had my early labor, there was a lot of blood. Like I woke up to just like a lot of blood. So when she had the blood, I was like, oh shit. She had, because the complication that I had is a pretty common one. So I was waiting for them to do that. And I was just like, no, not.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So that's fantastic.
You guys, any thoughts on the dream at the beginning?
Not especially.
Okay. We had some technical difficulties, so we watched it on a much smaller screen. A detail that you guys may have missed that Locke's eyes in the dream. You saw what they were.
Blacked out.
One was
No.
black, one was white.
Yeah,
One was white and one was black.
Yeah. So going back to the pilot, the backgammon pieces, one is light, one is dark, and then when they find the bodies in the cave, he finds 2 stones on it. Jack finds 2 stones on them. One's white, one's black. It's another example of that imagery. Just pointing that out.
Will they continue?
Yeah, well,
It will.
something else that you may not have caught the first time through because you hadn't seen it yet is that Locke is sitting at what you will eventually see to be the psychic's table with the lamp and the tarot cards. Yeah, and then not super important, but when he's pulling the cards, it's making the sound of knives like being unsheathed, and then he's saying like, you know what's happening. You weren't supposed to give him up. It's all your fault. We all pay the price now. I'm saving the Ethan thing, I guess, for the moment. You really liked Thomas, right? Claire's baby daddy.
Motherfucker. I was like holding my reaction in at that. I was oh my goodness.
Strong
The way that he, like,
contender for like
convinced
the worst
her.
character in the show.
Yeah. Convinced her to keep it, and then
Well, you said "aw" in that scene, and
oh my gosh,
and you knew she was on the island alone. So I didn't know if maybe you thought he was going to die
I
or
just assumed he
something.
died, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or that he hadn't come on the plane with her, but she had been like going to visit her mother or something,
Well, and I forget, which is weird how many times I've watched these episodes doing this podcast. Had they said that she was giving the baby up for adoption, or is this the first episode we
I'm
found
guessing
out?
that was.
I
Real here.
don't recall them ever talking about it.
Okay.
It feels like something they would be revealing.
Yeah, I agree, but for some reason I thought it might have been mentioned. Drew, I feel like you thought that Thomas made some good points. Could you elaborate on those?
You pick off the internet.
Can't pin that on me.
The actual worst.
But I really like how that recontextualizes like her reaction towards Charlie trying to be there for her.
That's true.
Yeah, Thomas was all sweet and being like, well, let's do this. Like, you know, I want to do this. And then, yeah. And
Although I will say that as someone with 3 children, like having kids is a really, really big thing. And so there is a point where you go, oh, this is like real. And there's no like, so I like, as much as I was angry with him, like it is also like, it's a, like,
scary. I don't know.
It's like you just feel your entire world changing, and it's terrifying, and it's weirder for the dad because they don't feel the child, so it's like that. It's like
not as connected.
The mom, yeah, it's so divisive, or can be so divisive because the guy doesn't feel it and the girl does, so the girl's like doing all these things like nesting and stuff to prep, and then the guy is like just like, why are you doing all these things? They don't, because the guy it tends to happen that the dad like feels something once they see the baby, because that's when they have like a physical connection to it.
Right.
More so, men can do things to help that and make it not that way, but
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fear leading up to that point where you finally meet the child. Before that, you just feel like there's an invader coming. Everything is changing, and you try and push that away. But once you see the child, once you touch the child and hold it, that's when the magic starts for the man. That's definitely how it went with me.
Yeah.
and they kind of signified it a little bit in their wardrobe. Like both of them were dressed differently than they had been in the first scene where we see them. They're both wearing like just very like young clothing, like they're chill and like, you know, fun hangout people. And then like she has like this long skirt and long sweater, and he's got like a button up like collared shirt. Yeah. And it just like they both look more they look older, and it's only been like 3 months.
That's funny. That's always been lost on me. Like
I noticed that too, actually. I'm like, did he get an insurance job? Shout out to the movie Here, which just came out like a couple weeks ago.
Well, yes, that's always gone over my head. But now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah. The much more obvious thing that I've obviously always gotten was the curtains.
Yeah.
You know, like that seems to be like that and something about the friends wanting to get together. Seems like he's kind of like on the last straw.
Also triggering,
yeah. Yeah. Like her putting up curtains in his because it was his loft or whatever flat is what the friend called it that she moved into. I don't remember where I was going with it. Drew, you say stuff now. No. It's like, Chris, you're really shitty at this.
It's such a little side moment, but I did really like that moment with Hurley and Sawyer. Because it just kind of it just keeps building on this like Sawyer kind of easing into being a part of the group. So I did kind of really like that scene.
It's more proof that Hurley is the best character too, because he didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to kiss Sawyer. He didn't have to beat up Sawyer. He didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to trade anything. Those are the 3 options with Sawyer.
I like Sawyer's sunglasses.
I like it.
But were you pleasantly surprised that Sawyer was
Once Hurley addressed him the way he did, I was like, okay, they're trying to make us like Sawyer now. Like they're like trying to like soften us a little bit towards him, I think.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
But I have less animosity for him now.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I mean, or it's not. Maybe that's undeserved at this point. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. But what you said about once Hurley came at him the way that Hurley came at him, that's kind of what I was saying in the earlier episodes where the stuff he was doing, like with Kate, like not telling her about the cave-in. It's like, well, I mean, she was kind of being like real mean to him. If everybody's nice to Sawyer, he's actually a really good guy. That's what I'm saying. How do you feel about Sawyer since you haven't been here for us talking about him?
I feel like Sawyer is incapable of taking things seriously because he doesn't want to invest in anything in a serious way. And it's easy to keep people at arm's length by being a dick, you know. But when Hurley, he's going to be the glue that keeps everything together with this whole thing, because he's a gentle giant and he knows how to speak to people, and Sawyer knows how to manipulate everything in a way that gains him the confrontation that he needs to exist on the outside of everything till he's comfortable. I'm sure then he'll find his way back in, but it's going to be on his terms.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This is the second week in a row we've had Hurley just have, hey, it's a good idea to take care of everybody.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, I have a good idea. We should probably do this thing.
Well, this is way more than I expected us to talk about Sawyer, considering he was only in one scene this episode.
The psychic. That one's like,
Yeah, okay.
This is our first week of like a lot of weird mystical bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, last week there was a lot mentioned.
But that was weird, like lore bullshit. This is weird, like psychic bullshit.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, yeah. So let's start down on this end. Thoughts on the psychic?
I thought that was a neat angle. I guess I don't really know what I think about it yet, but it is, did he orchestrate the whole thing? It does feel like that whole, tomorrow came so abruptly that he did plan it. But then the thing is, again, if he did plan it, it doesn't account for, 3 pins now working. So it's maybe there was a family, or maybe, it is all just part of in a weird way, it all just is part of this destiny that's kind of going on type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't want to commit to anything because I'm probably going to be wrong.
Yeah, I don't want to be wrong.
holding in the toilet.
No, I'm gonna wait. You said something about the pins, and I have stuff to say about that, but I'm gonna wait and see if anybody else has anything else to add to that. But Buck, thoughts on the psychic? Brian, thoughts on the psychic?
I think it was manipulation from the start.
Okay, so you think he's a fraud of some sort?
I don't think he's a fraud. I think he really saw something and found a way to manipulate the situation into a way that would avoid whatever he saw.
Okay.
So, the pins really kind of concreted that for me.
In what way?
In the way that he couldn't have set that up.
Oh, okay. Concreted that he's real.
That it was a legit reading, and he was trying to avoid whatever dangerous outcome he saw by forcing her hand to get on that plane.
Well, so do you think he meant what he said about she needs to be the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Because when we said you think it was a manipulation from the very beginning, I didn't know if you meant because that's not what he says at first. He kind of pushes her away, and then she comes back on her own. If it's a manipulation from the very beginning, that would imply that he knew she was going to do that, which is a psychic. Maybe he did. But yeah, I was just trying to find out if you thought maybe he had a different end goal in mind than what he was actually saying.
Well, initially, I was thinking that he was setting this up to where he was going to make money by having her go to L.A. and sell the baby. But then once he forced you have to be on this flight, it just kind of pulled that shroud away from that. Signified that he knew the marooned on an island was going to be the best situation.
Well, okay. So you said something I want to respond to, and now you have too. But I'll let Julia say her piece before I start responding to things.
Okay.
Posing follow-up questions.
2 things. One, there's the moment where this is a slight tangent, but it also connects. So Jack had the whole thing where he said you need to not be stressed because it's really, really dangerous for your pregnancy for you to be stressed. And every doctor does that, and it's so annoying because it's at the same time there's 1,000 things happening to make it as stressful as possible, and it's the worst thing as a pregnant woman because it's let us dump every possible stress we possibly can on you and then tell you not to be stressed about it. What's wrong with you? Why are you stressed out? So that was stressful for me. But the combination of like Jack saying that, but then also she had this whole history of the psychic, giving her everything. There's literally nothing more stressful than being all of this responsibility on you, and it's just anybody else does it, then it's all ruined, and you have to fix. That is so much pressure.
Yeah.
And like it made
Especially
her
in the like end of the world kind of way that he seems to be saying it.
He's calling her in the middle of the night. Like, oh my word! Like just like so stressful. But even like going the idea of like going to a psychic and getting like an obviously like visibly bad reading when you're pregnant, like, and you have the hormones coursing through your body, and then you have the baby happening. Like, just, oh my gosh, the psychic was so stressful, very, very stressful. Especially because like it did feel like he was a genuine psychic. Like I don't think there was ever a moment where he felt like a fraud. Like,
well, I think rejecting the money goes a long way to make him not feel like a fraud. Yeah.
Right. Which, speaking of the money, I did feel like, I don't think it's ever going to come back, but I felt like the way that they said the amounts of money was interesting. Like they were very slow about the $20,000 with the couple from Melbourne, and then the Los Angeles couple was $6,000, and then $6,000, and then it was going to be $12,000. They were just so precise about it that it felt significant. Mm-hmm. Was it significant?
Not necessarily, but I'm waiting for him to make some kind of weird reference to numbers.
I was trying to think of one, and I was.
I knew. It's like that time I was anticipating it, so I paused to wait for you to say your thing.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with what I wanted to say to what you said, Brian, and then I'll get back to the pins thing. Because you make an interesting point that, like, well, I mean, hell, the episode makes an interesting point. Charlie makes an interesting point by suggesting that if he was really psychic and he really wanted her to raise the baby, and he knew the plane was going to crash, it seems like that's what he was trying to do. And hell, even the shot of him, the psychic's face after she walks out the door, like he almost seems like he's guilty, like he feels bad about what he's doing. All of that suggests that yes, that is what he was trying to make happen. But as we see in this episode on the island, Claire's in an interesting situation with whatever the fuck's going on with this Ethan guy. And, like, he clearly has some kind of weird... I would argue she's in some kind of peril, it would seem, her and her baby. Did the psychic not see that? Because, I mean, like, he literally put her in this position.
Unless he knows how it plays out.
We need to get a psychic as a guest for this episode. Is it too late?
Even the psychic said it was
I guess if they knew they were supposed to be there,
he knows it up to a point.
Yeah, this island has some strange effect over everything. So maybe once to the island, he can't see what happens, but he knows that island is still marooned out in the
Yeah, makes sense.
But the way he was acting was that this was going to be a little baby genocide machine. So, maybe if he did see the outcome and the outcome was negative for the baby, maybe he was okay with that. Who knows?
Yeah, gotcha. You two seem to be convinced that the pins prove some kind of phenomenon. And I want to counter that a little bit by pointing out that, so she has the first pin, she tries it, doesn't work. She doesn't so much as shake it. She gets the lawyer's pin, tries it, she does shake that one, still doesn't work. Then the adoptive mother tries to give her one. She doesn't even try to use the third one. By that point, she's already projecting onto the situation. She's reading into it. And I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying, like, what I love about that scene and this episode, well, mostly that scene, is that it could make sense that there was nothing supernatural going on and nothing other than all it was revealing to her was what she believed on some level. Like there was a part of her that wanted to buy into what the psychic was telling her about needing to raise the baby herself. Because when he says that on the phone about, like, I know there's a part of you that's doubting your decision to give the baby, like she reacts to that, and then she still blows him off. She still goes, and then she should. But after the thing with the pins, she shows up. She's like, okay, what's your offer? And she's almost disappointed when he says, okay, you can give it away to these people. She's like, well, wait a minute. You said that I needed to be the one to do it. Like, now you're telling me. And then she's going back to, like, thinking he's ridiculous and he needs to convince her again. I don't know. To me, an interesting way to read that scene is that she kind of jumped to a conclusion there based on something that subconsciously she wanted to be true.
Possibly, but
Calling her crazy.
But for all we know, that could be an overarching theme for all I know. it could be an overarching theme of the show, because Locke's going through the same thing with the island itself. Like, is it something magical, or is he just projecting something miraculous?
Did Jack really see his dad?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, and certain things I think deserve a more definitive explanation than others. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying there's never going to be an episode where they're like, here's what really happened with the pins.
It turns out they just have really crappy pens in Australia.
So my point with that is I think
counterclockwise on like American pens.
I think you're dead right, and I also don't think it's a spoiler to say that that is a theme of the show, is how much of this is people reading things that are believing things that aren't definitively true, and the show most of the time isn't interested in proving that they were wrong or that they were right. There are certain instances where you will find out, like, okay, maybe they should or should not have believed something.
Just me thinking back to when I first started watching the show, what I was dead set on believing from the first episode. I don't know if I should say it, but
Do you know definitively if it was right or wrong? I actually have a pretty good guess of what it is.
I have no idea how any of it pans out.
Okay. Well, so can I guess? Because if it's what I think it is, we've actually talked about it a fair amount.
Right.
Did you think that they were all dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were all dead and they were experiencing purgatory.
Yeah.
But I didn't follow through with watching it and never got those answers. So can't wait to find out down the road.
How would you feel if that were the case?
Man, I really don't know.
Yeah. Probably depend on how it was depicted. But yeah, I think if you'd asked me back then when the first season was airing and you proposed that, I think where I would anticipate being disappointed is, okay, so does that mean that we don't get an explanation for why there are polar bears, why, there are all these other weird things, like you can't just say it's purgatory and then just be like, just weird stuff because it's purgatory.
You know they're polar bears?
I mean, I think it would be very disappointing
The
to
whole
find out
chapter of Dante's Divine Comedy.
that was the entirety of it. Just that free license to do whatever the shit they wanted. That was a much younger me that, I guess probably wasn't invested in the storyline like I am now. Back then I would have accepted it and been like, oh, cool, whatever. Now I'm like, there's way too much that they could do with it for that to be the case.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say I didn't expect Lost to explore faith versus non-faith as much as it has so far.
Oh, we're just getting started.
I know. You've given us that slight spoiler already, so I feel safe mentioning it at this point. And there's already been now at least 3 episodes that, at least slightly dive into it. So.
Well, and it's always in different ways, because I think where we first talked about it, and I could be wrong, was in the Moth episode, because we were talking about the Catholicism and stuff. This one has nothing to do with organized religion, but the psychic.
Disorganized religion.
Yeah.
And then there was something else with.
Well, Locke's whole thing, just his whole attitude towards.
Yeah, he has this whole
There was something with Kate where there was.
The sinking in the sand thing, by the way, is something I do every time I go to a beach now, and it's all. I don't know. I never got it to work. That's the twist. But I have faith.
Locke definitely has a shaman feel to him. He's probably my favorite character.
He's a lot of people's favorite character, but the interesting thing in this discussion and every other group of people I've ever watched the show with is that even amongst the people who have him as their favorite character, there are 2 distinct interpretations of him at this point. One is that shaman-like, one is nefarious in nature, which is more so. I mean, I'm assuming that's still where you're kind of at.
I'd say so, but it's an understandable nefariousness.
Locke definitely has
On screen, he didn't.
a habit of aggrandizing himself in a not a brutish way, but he from the early episodes, he seemed to try and place more importance on himself than others did. and now he seems to have found the ability to take that role. But that's why I don't see him necessarily as a nefarious character. He's just very stoic and honed in on what his purpose is.
Yeah,
it seems so.
Let's say the first couple of episodes before you get his flashback, they certainly seem to make him seem ominous. And then really where the opinions, again, in my experience, where they diverge is after his flashback episode. A lot of people are just like, oh no, like he's just on like a spiritual journey, and he's trying to help other people with similar situations. And then there's the other aspect of it is like, okay, well he seems to really believe in his destiny here on this island, and that this island healed him, and all these things, and how might that manifest at some point in scary ways, if he...
I think Locke is actually my least favorite character.
Your least? Oh, do tell.
I really do not like him at all.
Why? Just gives you bad vibes?
Serious bad vibes.
She doesn't trust bald guys.
She didn't even refute it. She's like, ah.
I was processing.
So surely I like some bald guy, but I can't think of a single one.
The way that he helped Charlie really spoke a lot about him to me. He could have just shunned this drug addict and helped him die, but he presented him with that opportunity to grow and be successful. And that to me, maybe it's my background, that spoke a lot to me.
See, that
on
even
his
that
character.
felt like bad vibes to me. Like something felt off about it, which could be just the show leaning into making us feel weird about him. But
Or just the way you read it, which is neither,
It just felt off.
Okay. Well, I did want to ask you, based on what you were saying, and the fact that we obviously weren't talking to you back when we watched that episode, what did you think of Locke's specific way of handling the drug situation, as far as letting him ask the 3 times and then giving it to him?
I thought that was an incredible way for him to handle it. Give him the power, but realize that it's futility for him to try and interject in that or influence it beyond what he had already done. Just presenting that opportunity for someone to empower themselves to that outcome. It definitely, for now at least, locked him in as a genuine person, just no nonsense.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see.
Yeah.
I'm going to be mad if it turns bad.
Yeah. Well, and humans and characters can be complex. Even if he were to turn bad, and I'm not saying that he does or does not, I don't think that would necessarily take away from your interpretation of what he was doing there.
But then again, who judges what's good and what's bad? What's necessary and unnecessary is more what would be in vain with him.
So it's just bad vibes, essentially.
Basically, yes, bad vibes.
Okay.
I feel like there's something concrete, but I can't put my finger on what it is exactly.
It's the thing I'm trying to go back through.
He really reminds me of in Survivor. There were always certain people, and it was this was real people.
Yeah.
So when you make art, it's inspired by how real people act. So it's I feel like it's fair to reference it. But there were routine, almost every season had an older man who would just kind of weird at first, but then they just were very stoicism at the cost of humanity, almost. They just this is what is right and wrong, but without any regard for people and how people feel and what matters to people and what is really needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think even in the scene with Charlie, it was just so detached, which could be, there's a potential that it could be just me personally, that I don't enjoy characters like that, that's possible. But it's also possible that he just, his stoicism just
Well,
feels uncomfortable for me.
It does have a very sociopathic feel to it.
Yeah.
Like when he's first sitting on the beach and the kid comes up to him, it has this ominous feeling, and they did that intentionally, I know, because they wanted him to have this mystique and air about him that he could be going either way, and it could just be that he's got sociopathic tendencies and knows how to manipulate, like when he gets the dog and ties it to the tree, and he comes over and wins favor by saying, give your son his pet.
Yeah, it feels like manipulative. Like it feels like, oh yeah, technically it's a good thing. Like same thing with Charlie. It was like, oh, technically it's a good thing, but like how's it serving him?
Well, what I will say, this is my personal feeling, and I mean, the only thing that I have to back up what I'm saying more is just how many times I've seen it. I don't know.
Pull rank on me.
I don't read that as him being detached. Like he seems like when Charlie comes and asks him for the drugs the third time, he seems genuinely reluctant to do it, and he's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "This is the third time," and then he seems relieved when Charlie dumps it in the fire. He says, "I'm proud of you." I don't know. Throughout that whole episode, I never felt like he was unsympathetic towards what Charlie was going through. That's my personal opinion.
I don't know that I would say like unsympathetic. Just that scene felt like it just felt a little bit off. Is what I meant. But,
okay.
But you were talking. One thing that you talked about was like the fact that the show has deliberately set up him feeling ominous. So what I was saying before about like it being like bad vibes, like they are deliberately putting out those bad vibes, so they're like that is there for like a reason, and I think the question is just, are they putting those there to trick us or to give us insight into who he really is, or is he always just going to be kind of this back and forth? You don't ever really fully understand whether he's going to.
Again, I'm not confirming or denying any one of those options, but yeah, I mean, hypothetically, yeah, it could be along those lines of that third option of like, it's open to interpretation. Like maybe he does certain things and you're left to interpret his motives and whether or not those are good motives or bad motives, or again, I'm not saying that that's actually the case. I'm just responding and throwing out possibilities.
It may be the absolute neutrality of his personality that makes him abrasive to you.
That's totally possible.
He doesn't have that clearly defined direction, like Sawyer does, or Jack does. He's just right there dead in the middle, perched to go either way, and that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, really.
Now that when you mentioned Sawyer, I just now appreciated that you're saying Locke is your least favorite character, not Sawyer. That's there you go. Because you were pretty vocal about not liking Sawyer for a while.
Our power rankings chart out.
Sawyer's got that charisma.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't working on her. Like for a while, she was not. She did not. She kept bringing it up, but she did not like him.
Then he stopped wearing a shirt. So.
Okay, well, cool. I also didn't expect us to talk about Locke that much. So I mean, I think let's get back to the elephant in the room. What the fuck's up with Ethan?
I mean, it's kind of like, sort of like the things I've kind of said before, like there has to be other people on the island. One, for a narrative standpoint, there's only so many characters, but now we know that. Now we know there are others, and that could be the others that Rousseau was talking about.
Rousseau, yeah.
Was talking about last episode. So now the question, what does Ethan want with the baby? I don't know.
Well, then there's the question is, does he want the baby or does he want the baby not to be alive? And does he want Claire? Does he want Claire not to be alive?
I'm going to bite my tongue for a minute. I'm going to point something out just again for you to consider, for you all to consider. But once again, before I get into that, we'll continue down the line. Unless were you going to say something else?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Thoughts on Ethan?
Ethan, he's creepy. He's creepy, and he just popped up in the background, and he didn't belong.
Yeah.
He stuck out, especially when she woke up In that scene where she thought she'd been stabbed in the stomach, he was right there.
Well, okay, so we're assuming, he's been on the island for who knows how long. He knew, Hurley asked where he was from, and he says Ontario, Canada. So he's at least familiar with the outside world.
Where was Rousseau from?
France. That's all I know.
Yeah. Was she from France?
I mean, that's actually a good question. They refer to
like
her as the French woman, and she speaks in French. And I will say she is supposed to have a French accent. Some people question.
Yeah, I mean, but that could be Canadian too.
Right.
It seems like I remember something about. I wonder where the ship was from that they were on.
She says they set sail from Tahiti. But yeah, as far as where they were from, it's a good question, which may or may not be important.
I mean, I was just thinking that could have been where the guy got Ontario from. Was if their ship was from Ontario, or if there was anything that they brought in that had Ontario stamped on it.
But where did he get his shirt?
Well, so how old do you think he is?
Plain shirt.
Because
he seems like, because initially I'm like, is that her son?
there you go.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's where you're going with it. You think that he could be Alex?
I feel like maybe he doesn't make sense as that. I feel like he's a little too old, but I had the same thought though that I was wondering if he's Alex.
Okay. Well, it was that the reason I was asking wasn't specifically because if you thought it could be Alex, but could he be from her team, or do you think he's too young for that?
No.
Oh no, I don't think he's too for that.
So maybe he could be a survivor from her team that I guess she doesn't know about or didn't see fit to mention, or I think I said that she doesn't know about. I meant like that she thinks is dead for some reason.
Well, she killed everybody from her team.
That's what she said, and maybe that's what she believes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Maybe somebody survived. You asked the question of like, does he want to hurt her or the baby, or something? And so
Does he want to hurt them? Does he want them dead? Or does he want
and I said that I had something. I had something that I wanted to point out, just for everyone to consider, and that is Ethan's been there for who knows how long, like amongst them.
At least a week, because saw mentioned before.
And I would say it's safe to say he's been there longer than that because Hurley says there were 46 of us. One of us wasn't in the manifest. They said there was 48 in the pilot, and then after 2 people died, they've been saying 46 ever since. So it's safe to say he's been there probably since the beginning. We just haven't really been seeing him. So has he been there the whole time specifically because of Claire? And if so, how did he even know about her? Or was he there to just kind of see what was going on? Did he find out about it? I guess my question is, or not my question, but the thing that I'm throwing out there is, he's been there for a while. He hasn't done anything to out himself. What is it about finding out that she was maybe going into labor that made him?
Are you implying that the island needs the force of the magic of labor, and so he's going to harness it by giving?
You're really good at reading my implications.
He probably found the most opportunistic time to distract the people back at the caves, run back over here, and hopefully snatch the baby while nobody can put up opposition other than Charlie.
It's also possible that he knows he's found out.
It's possible if he
we don't see anything to directly say that, but it's possible.
Well,
he has to know because he knows he's found out. Otherwise, it's a little convenient that they're at the same time.
Well, I mean, you could say it's off it's all. You could also say it's convenient that Saeed comes back and says we're not alone right as Hurley figures out this guy wasn't on the plane. Yeah, there are certain contrivances that are part of the storytelling, but in the scene where Hurley's doing his little census, Ethan didn't seem too concerned. He didn't seem to figure out that Hurley was going to know anything from that. He asked him, "What's this for?" And he says, "Oh, just thought it'd be good." And he's like, "Okay." He seems genuinely unconcerned about it and doesn't try to interfere in any kind of way. And he probably doesn't know that Hurley's going to get the manifest and figure that out. All that's to say that there's nothing at this point that we can say for sure that would have alerted him to the fact that he's found out. So we're basically out of time. That kind of because I was looking at the time for a while and I was like, oh, we got plenty of time, and now it's like now it's like, oh shit.
We gotta do it for Beast Figure.
Yeah. So we'll do our 2 things real quick. So what we've been doing half the time. We forgot to do both of these last week. everybody will go down and say who their current favorite character is. If it's changed, they'll kind of explain why. And then we guess whose episode we think is next week.
We'll do it, and then we'll tell them the title and see if they're interested.
Yeah. And that one's, we'll get that. Julia?
Least favorite is Locke and Sawyer. Favorite is Claire and... Actually, okay. Least favorite is just Locke. And then favorite is Claire and Kate.
Okay. So Claire, because of this episode, I'm guessing Claire became...
I just sometimes forget about Claire, but
okay.
she is one of my favorite characters. I just forget about it.
I mean, she's very good-natured and she hasn't really caused any problems.
Well, I care about her a lot, and I really want her to not die.
Yeah, fair. It's unreasonable, actually. I know it's weird when we do it. Hurley.
It remains. Hurley had a great week, so yeah.
Yeah. Hurley's had a great couple weeks after we talked about how he was kind of not doing a lot.
And also, secretly, Ethan is like the best and like nicest character as the show goes on. He's he's totally everything.
My favorite characters are Locke and Hurley. My least favorite is Sawyer. I just think he's a prick.
All right, Drew.
I mean, favorites are still Locke and Saeed. And then
Saeed did not push the plot forward too much in this episode.
He
tiny bit.
He had the big reveal. And
did a little and meant a lot.
Based on all my random ramblings from other episodes, I don't think it's a coincidence that Locke's one of the people in the room.
Well, they do show him like perk up his ear. Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's gonna come into play. I think.
Yeah, he's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Okay. And then do you have a least favorite?
I mean, just arbitrarily, probably Boone, because he just kind of exists.
She loves the actor that plays Boone.
I'm sure.
I'm
I
sure.
like the actor, but I also like the character.
Okay.
I just have a predisposition to like the character because of how much I like the actor.
Sure.
I may have watched like 20 videos of him today, but not as Boone.
Okay. Be careful with that.
We'll link those in the video description.
So we'll come back this way. Who do you think next episode? Just guess.
What's it called?
Well, we'll do it first without the title.
Michael.
I feel like Hurley.
Hurley? Okay.
Yeah.
Just any reason, or just that's your guess?
That's just my guess.
Okay.
I was debating whether they would do an episode on Ethan or not.
That's a pretty. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's a pretty good guess. Yeah.
I could see it being Ethan.
All right. Well, since the episode's called "All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues," does that change
Anyone wanna change
does that change anybody's guess? And if so, to what?
I mean, there's so many characters that appear to have daddy issues.
Yeah, I mean, we already, like, if we hadn't already had Sawyer's episode, I would have just assumed it was Sawyer.
I would assume it was Jack.
But neither of you wants to guess either of those, or it doesn't matter. It's not like you guys get points.
We could be keeping track,
Yeah.
They're not ranking us after each episode.
Yeah, no. I mean, as far as I know.
Daddy issues. I mean, it makes me reevaluate this. Boone would probably be. He seems like he'd have daddy issues.
Okay. All right. So change it to Boone. You guys are sticking to your guns?
I don't see Boone as making sense with a cowboy
That's a fair point.
story. That doesn't make any sense to me, but I could be wrong.
We'll find out.
But all right, so that's everything we've got this week. But we'll be coming back next week for All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. And I hope you all come back for that. And I hope you all come back for that. Now we all
Goodbye.
creepily wave silently. Keep waving silently. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you. All right. I would now like to give a special thank you to the currently active donors. These include candidate number 90, Ben Ward, candidate number 108, Jeffrey Winslow, candidate number 69, Brian Phillips, candidate number 32, Chuck Boyd, and candidate number 341, Hans. If you too would like to become a candidate,
You can do so for as little as $1. One-time or recurring donations can be set up on Ko-fi.com/candlepun or Patreon.com/candlepun. A donation of any amount will get you credited in this podcast and added to the candidate wall, which will be displayed in all video versions of the episodes of this podcast from that point forward, even once you're no longer donating. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple people that have donated equipment and resources that are used in the production of this podcast. These include Mary Mullins, Brandon Huth, Charles Huth, William McMahon, and Charlene McMahon. Until next time, namaste and good luck.
Maybe he just wants the placenta so he can eat it,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want to share.
Don't be culturally insensitive, Julia.
No, they're
I was
on
not, no, I wasn't being culturally
this
insensitive.
island's
No,
culture.
I was saying
This
that
island's
was a
culture.
Really good reference. No, that's not okay. That's not something that a lot of people like, other than actual parents, know. So that's just like it's a really good like deep cut parent knowledge thing that I was like I was just impressed by that. Yeah.
Okay. So you think it's perfectly acceptable that Ethan would be trying to eat her placenta?
It wouldn't be acceptable. No, I just.
To like this video, click the thumbs up. Or, if there has been an incursion by the hostiles, click the thumbs down. To leave feedback, enter a comment below. To be notified when more videos arrive, click the circle and then select the notification bell. To view previous content from this channel, click either of the two boxes.